You know, with all these conversations of alternative love, the LGBTQ plus movement, there's one kind of relationship that still makes a lot of people feel super icky inside. Age relationships, specifically large age gaps in relationships. You hear anybody that talks about someone dating another person 20 years older, you immediately jump to conclusions. Oh, they're a gold digger. Oh, they're just going for the money. Oh, there has to be something special with that man. Maybe he has a large penis. I don't know. Overall, large age gaps equals super taboo in our society, and probably will be for a very long time. But it wasn't always that way. Back in ancient Greece, there were often relationships between older men in society and young boys to teach them how to grow. Possibly homosexual, the verdict's still out on that, but it showed the value of relating to someone who was much older and was much more experienced than you. There's only one movie I know that addresses this issue without laughing at it, without thinking the characters are insane. And if this kind of relationship maybe piques your interest a little bit, I'd check out Harold and Maude. Harold and Maude introduces us to Harold, a young 20-something-year-old boy who is obsessed with death, goes to funerals for free time, fakes his own death to his mother, and Maude, an old woman full of life who has experienced just about every facet of it and continues to live as much as she can. Maude meets Harold at one of his funerals, and they begin to relate to each other in the strangest of ways. They both see what the other person brings to the table and values them for what they have. Maude shows Harold how to live, and Maude learns to accept how to die. What unfolds is a touching love story of youth and inexperience meeting the opposite, and why finding someone that understands you doesn't come with barriers. The best part of the film is the relationship. Harold and Maude feel so much like Harold and Maude. It's never one or the other. They really do bring a lot to each other. Even though Maude is so much more experienced than Harold, it feels like Harold is teaching her just as much as Maude is teaching him. They really do make each other grow, a sign of any fantastic relationship. The lighthearted comedy is also perfect for this kind of mood. The world of Harold and Maude is our world, but just slightly more unusual. A lot of the characters kind of live in their own heads and kind of project what they want with the world. Harold's crazy uncle who thrives for the military is so gung-ho it's almost like a caricature. His mother is the classic overbearing mother. Each girl she brings to date Harold is more stereotypical than the last. The only people who really defy these roles are Harold and specifically Maude. Maude really breaks any conception of what it means to be stereotyped. Any kind of idea you have of her will be broken the instant after as she tries to defy your expectation of her. And by doing this, Harold grows and becomes less of the caricature you think he is at the beginning of the movie. The relationship never feels forced, and by the end, you'll really believe that this couple existed at some point. The casting really allows for this kind of in-depth relationship. Harold is so unbelievably awkward that you kind of can't doubt that he likes Maude, and Maude is so vivacious that her attraction to Harold comes first out of curiosity, but then out of genuine respect and love. The praise I'm lumping on this film goes double for the score by Cat Stevens. The folky pop he brings to the table is exactly what this film needs with this kind of dark comedy. Harold's obsession with death could be brought morosely, and with someone like Tim Burton behind the helm, you would see so much dark imagery obsessing with this character, but that's not Harold. What he brings to the table is much more than just death. It's just misunderstanding, and Cat Stevens really helps envelop that and make you feel what he's feeling. The only problem I have with the film is Harold's sometimes stilted acting. Yes, he is super awkward, but every once in a while he says a line, you're like, that wasn't even human. But overall, I can't really say much negative about this film. It is so well put together, and you won't ever see a film like it. Honestly, watching Harold and Maude, you get to see a relationship that has not been explored elsewhere in cinema, and it feels really like a gem. Naming highlights for this film is really difficult because so many of the scenes are integral to the final product that picking out one or two isolated instances is rather impossible. But I'll say a few of my favorites, but I'm sure that if you watch this movie, you'll get a completely different vibe. First of all, I loved Harold's deaths. He does it multiple times throughout the movie, and each one is inventive and fun and really makes you believe that Harold is a bit kooky in a good way, that he really understands death on an intimate level and appreciates it for what it is. You buy into this crazy character, and his deaths only allow that. His uncle also is a riot. And even though comedy is in the forefront of this movie, it really takes a major step up when his uncle is on screen. And then Maude. Maude is just perfect. You couldn't ask for a better Maude. I can't really lavish enough praise on her. Usually I'll say how this actor excelled or really performed beyond their limits, but I'm not doing that so much with Harold and Maude just because I was so lost in their characters that I don't think of Maude as Ruth Gordon. I just see Maude. That's how amazing she did. As for suggestions for this movie, if you really like it or want to see something in a similar vibe, I really couldn't tell you. The closest I could say is maybe The Graduate for this kind of weird coming-of-age comedy drama with an older relationship. Maybe. That's the closest. But you really never see anything like Harold and Maude again, so if you want a film that really explores different topics of relationships, what finding another person that really understands you is worth, Harold and Maude is the only film for you. Overall, the movie just excels at something that is so difficult for romantic comedies, making you believe that the characters actually love each other. A relationship builds slowly and blossoms into something natural. Most movies just have the couples jump into bed and that's it. It doesn't make you earn that relationship. Harold and Maude takes its time. It knows exactly what it wants you to believe, and the only way you would believe that is by slowly introducing it to you and then giving it to you piece by piece until even you agree age is just a number.